Okay.
Where
All right.
they at? Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. We get started here. I'd like to call the Missouri Western State University Board of Governors meeting to order. The first item of business is to approve the meeting agenda for today. Do I have a motion to approve the February 25, 2025 Board of Governors meeting agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Next up, do I have a motion to approve the October 24, 2024 board meeting minutes? Have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next, need a motion to ratify the December 20, 2024 board poll.
So moved.
Have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to ratify the December 20, 2024 board poll, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes. We will now hear the Personnel, Finance, and Operations Committee report from Vice President Unionl.
Thank you and good afternoon. This morning, the Personnel, Finance, and Operations Committee met and received an update on the finances of the university and a brief administrative update. In addition to approving the financial statements this afternoon, a few action items will come from the committee at the conclusion of this report. As of January 31, tuition fees totaled $29,789,335, or 94.5% of the budgeted amount. At the same point last year, we had actuals of $28,540,221, or 92.6% of the budgeted amount. And for context, we finished last year at $29.5 million. So we are in good position to increase revenue year over year, as we have already surpassed last year's ending revenue, with summer tuition as the remaining revenue source to be recognized. State grant receipts for ARPA and MOOC sales projects in Hearns and Potter will pick up over the next quarter. These projects make up most of the $4.2 million in adjustments from the original budget. The work those began over winter break, and invoices not been received and paid as of January 31, thus the not reimbursement for this respective program. So that's causing the lag in the actual of $621,670 for the year, but that will pick up here over the final quarter of this fiscal year. Both projects are on schedule to be completed in late May. Athletics continues to progress well, and the work that Andy Carter and his team, along with Peak, have been doing, moving the needle in terms of generating additional revenues from athletics. Housing is relatively flat year over year and down from the prior year simply because of beds occupied. Food service revenue is consistent with last year, but lagging slightly due to Airmark being unable to fulfill some catering requests, which will impact our commissions. We are working with them to rectify some equipment issues that will then allow for us to increase the revenue again, increase revenue generation, and of course, student satisfaction. Total operating revenues are $40,736,425 for the year, which is $130,000 less last year. But if you exclude federal and state government grant contracts from last year's School Me Center activities, the operating revenue is up $1.3 million compared to fiscal year 2020. Salary and compensation is on budget, but are up $536,704 compared to last year. We add in the anticipated July 31 cycle for faculty, which faculty contracts run from August 1 to the end of July. Then we would be at exactly 58.3% of our budget, which is exactly where we should be at this point in the year. So we are on target to hit our salary and compensation budget for fiscal year 2025. Fringe to run high up over last year, and last year was larger than the year prior. Again, this is significantly attributed to the Moser's retirement program increases, but also the steep increase that the university experienced in medical insurance premiums. Supplies and services are high now, as is typically the case because most service contracts are tied to either the fiscal year or the calendar year. Therefore, most big items have been paid for. Last year, for the months of February to June, supplies and services totaled approximately $4.4 million. And so, assuming a similar trend, that would put us right on target to meet the budget for FY25. Travel is also on target, but it is one of those levers that we always controlled throughout the course of the fiscal year. We were $8,000 less than this same point last year, in which we ended up at 85% to budget. So we anticipate favorability here again in FY25. Same with utilities, which are slightly above last year, but we reduced the budget by $400,000 from FY24 to 25 and are still trending towards favorability in FY25. Insurance is also on budget due to small premium increases that we learned in July. We expect favorability here, but it would be offset if the university pursues its cybersecurity insurance to start at the end of this fiscal year versus the start of next fiscal year. That amount is approximately $22,215, and we're currently evaluating our options provided to us by our broker. Scholarships are significantly higher than last year. However, more than $330,000 of that is due to the federal Pell Grant receipts for students. So more students qualified, and the grant amount is higher per student than it was in prior, which is a good thing for our scholarships line items in this expense line. In total, expenses through 7 months is $51,238,153, producing an operating loss of $10,501,720. Overall, I feel we are in good position for our expenses, but we will continue to monitor and manage it the best that we can to offset deficit spending. Non-operating revenues and expenses are pretty much where they should be, with one notable exception. Grants appears to be lagging at 55%. However, that is the result of timing only. Federal Pell Grant disbursements were provided to students at the end of January, but the revenues did not hit the university until the early part of February, totaling $2,712,533. So we caught up very quickly in February, and it's not reflected as of January 3rd. Capital will increase as well. The difference between our capital budgets will increase as Hearns and Potter invoices are paid. And in general, there isn't much highlighting here other than the 3.3% increase for appropriations that we anticipated at the start of the year. We factor in the $2.7 million of grants that dispersed quickly in February. We would be at $7.15 million in income before transfers, which is consistent with FY20. Overall, we do see our shortfall position increase slightly by 0.4% as a result of the adjustments made since July 1 with the various increases learned of since the board approved the budget in April of 2020. Just as we did last year, I anticipate us finding more than $200,000 to $300,000 in savings and naturally dropping our shortfall to less than $1 million. And with some intentionality, we can get it much more. Next, I have a series of approvals that I'll run through in total before turning it back over for the vote. The first is an amendment to FB 25023, which is our Potter Hall remodel. The board approved this in October of 2024. We have opted to include 2 alternates into this bid for the foundry room and the restrooms. So that increased the updated bid amount from $516,988 to $533,915. This also changed the 10% contingency from $51,698 to $53,391, totaling $587,306.06. The second item coming from committee is the handbook, the Board of Governor Policy Handbook. We are requesting revisions to the purchasing limits going to board approval from $100,000 to $200,000. Informational items will continue at amounts more than $100,000, but less than $200,000 for those items using state cooperative and contract agreements, sole source, and other formal solicitations. The policy handbook has not been revised since August of 2000. The third item coming from the committee is the decommission of Judah Hall and Bashir's Halls in fiscal year 2026. We are seeking authorization to begin the decommissioning of both halls and would come at an expense of almost $369,347 to raise both facilities in the next fiscal year. Official bids will be approved or will be received if approved today. We anticipate nearly $306,000 of annual savings, expense reductions from decommissioning these buildings. If we choose not to do any decommissioning, then there is a $316,000 improvement that must be done to the fire safety upgrades in both halls for fire panel, soundboards, wiring, and devices. Therefore, the difference between raising and the capital infusion is $54,000. That was the last approval coming from committee. Back over to the others.
The Missouri Western State University Personnel Finance and Operation Committee recommends to the Board of Governors that they approve the financial report for January 2005, the FB 25-2023 amendment, Board of Governors policy handbook revisions, and the decommission of Judah Hall and Shears Hall.
Okay, thank you, Governor. We have several recommendations coming from the Personnel Finance and Operations Committee. The first recommendation is to approve the January 2025 financial report. Do I have a motion to approve that financial report as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion with a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes. Next, we have a recommendation from the committee to approve FB 25-023, the Potter Hall renovation amendment. Do I have a motion to approve that amendment as presented?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first, we have a second from Governor Grimwood. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes. Next, we have a recommendation coming from the committee to approve revisions to the Board of Governors policy handbook. Do I have a motion to approve the revisions to the Board of Governors policy handbook as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? That motion passes. Finally, we have a recommendation coming from the committee to approve the decommission of Judah Hall and Bashirs Hall. Do I have a motion to approve the decommission of those halls as presented?
So moved.
Governor Scudor with the motion. Second, Governor Landis?
Yep.
Any discussion? All those in favor of decommissioning Judah and Bashirs halls as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That motion passes. All right, we're going to change our order up a little bit from historical time here. And we will now hear from our president, Dr. Elizabeth Kennedy.
Well, thank you and good afternoon and Chair Teeman, Vice Chair Grimwood and Governors. Before I give my update, a couple of quick items. First, I would like to officially welcome our new, could you take the slide off for just a moment, please? I'll tell you when you put it up. Can you do that? Super duper, not ready yet. Okay, so back to where I was. First of all, I'd like to officially welcome our new provost, Dr. Jay Johnson. Welcome, welcome. And he's only been here a few short weeks, but I'm confident that I speak for many when I say what a pleasure it is to have him on our team and on board and to be leading our Division of Academic Affairs. Secondly, I would like to congratulate our Department of Nursing for another 100% first-time passage rate on the NCLEX, the licensure exam for our most recent cohorts. If you're keeping score, that's 4 times in a row. And I'm wondering, Dean, if that's not a state or national average. I might just say it is. Doing way better than that. What an accomplishment. So congratulations. Thirdly, I am very proud to report that we had 354 students on the President's Honor Roll for fall. That means they're taking 12 credits and have a 4.0 GPA. And we had 426 on the Dean's Honor Roll, and that's 12 credits with a 3.5 GPA. That's very good. And then finally, I would like to give a very hearty thank you to staff, particularly physical plant, university police, those in housing and residence life, and to our good partner Aramark for their work during several extreme weather events. As you may know, we experienced a blizzard which dumped 16 inches of snow. And even just last week, we had snow accompanied by bone-chilling temperatures and dangerously bitter wind chills, minus 20 degrees, which means that you have frostbite within 30 minutes of skin exposure. But our folks worked very diligently to monitor the weather conditions so that we could make the best informed decisions about opening or closing campus. They worked to clear parking lots and sidewalks. They made sure that our students living on campus were well taken care of. And they dealt with, and are in some cases still dealing with, several HVAC issues in a couple of buildings. I know on my first day back after winter break, my office was 57 degrees. So it hasn't been pretty, it hasn't been easy, but we have managed through, and I want everyone to know how much I and the rest of campus appreciate those efforts. So for my update today, I'd like to talk about two things. The first item will be student acquisition and the development of our strategic enrollment plan. And then I'd also like to talk about our legislative agenda. So let's start with the student acquisition and development of our strategic enrollment plan. As I have shared with governors before, Missouri Western has a 10-county service area. Now you get to see the pretty picture. So I am a visual learner and I just like to see, those are the 10 counties, okay? That's our 10-county service area. And what we know is that 76% of all of our students, at least in the last year, came from these 10 counties. However, slide please. The majority of our students come from a 5-county area within that. And as you can see from the map, that ranges a little north in Andrew County to Buchanan County to south of St. Joseph, which would be Clay, Platte, and Jackson. And when I say majority, in the fall of 2024, 87% of our students from that 10-county service area were from within these 5 counties. So 87% within the 5 counties. And that number, just so you know, has held pretty steady for the past 5 years. 87% of our students have come from this 10-county area. And if we jump to the bottom line and look at freshman student acquisition, not only are 87% of the freshmen coming from these 5 counties, but to zero in, nearly 50% in the fall of 2024 came from Buchanan County alone. Andrew County was the lowest. We only had 0.03%, which was about 42 students coming from Andrew County. So governors and I have already discussed demographic changes in Buchanan County that are and have been detrimentally impacting student enrollment at Missouri Western State University. And I have presented this data many times to many audience. We know it has to do with factors such as a declining population in the county, in St. Joseph, where only 60% of the worked-age adults are in the workforce. We have a declining secondary education student population, coupled with declining student performance and lower graduation rates, plus the highest high school dropout rate of any county in Missouri, which has created a segment in the population of a little over 10% of adults 25 ages and older who do not even possess a high school diploma. Now, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, and certainly I know the school district is aware and attempting to reverse these alarming trends. And I'm happy to say Missouri Western is collaborating with the district on many different fronts to not only deepen our relationship with them, but to add our efforts to them to really bolster the value of education in this community, which is a key variable in changing perceptions and attitudes. And all of that is to say, here at Missouri Western State University, we are finalizing an effective strategic enrollment management plan that provides, number one, a deep understanding of our own data. That data, number 2, is supported by historical enrollment yields, and number 3 is combined with future enrollment expectations of the university for sustainable growth. To achieve our goals, every aspect of our enrollment funnel, from inquiries through enrollment and yield percentage, is in play. And that means understanding both financial sustainability, which is the number of students at current expense levels, as well as future growth, looking forward how many students would be needed. This is imperative. And essentially, we are developing that intersection of enrollment goals and the requisite funding that's needed to achieve those goals. This is why our work in collaboration with Unionl is so critical. We have extended our contract with Unionl and asked them to embed themselves in our processes. We're asking them to devise both short-term and long-term projects, ranging from student recruitment to understanding the full use of existing student acquisition tools and onboarding staff to new approach. We are going to develop more exposure and more impressions in the marketplace. We will expand within our 10-county service area and extend to the Kansas City metropolitan area to achieve greater market penetration. And we will push our efforts into secondary markets and eventually tertiary markets. We are moving forward with clear direction and sure purpose. And I must comment to the board that this work has been led by Vice President Daniel Holt and Chief Assistant for Strategic Initiatives Tama Wagner. Their expertise has filled critical gaps that have limited our progress, and I greatly appreciate the leadership shown by them outside of their roles to tackle this responsibility, along with the admissions and the Marcom staff who have also been critical in this process. And additionally, I want to give a shout out to Samantha Fowler. She's a marketing coordinator in our marketing communications department who has agreed to support our work with Unionl, again, above and beyond her current role. And I want to thank you, everyone that's been involved in this critical process. And I want governors to know that we are also looking to supplement efforts that will also include online and graduate program development, conversations of which I am very pleased to report are progressing well with Provost Johnson. I appreciate your leadership in that. And I'm also confident that there are many, many faculty and staff interested in helping with our student acquisition efforts. And to that end, I just want to share an anecdote. I was at a faculty senate meeting last week, and I was getting emailed from Dr. Mills and Dr. Grantham from biology during the faculty senate meeting, who are saying, we are ready and willing to help. Let us know what we can do. And I know that there are many staff and other faculty I hear from, but thank you so much for those efforts. That means a great deal. And finally, I want to point out to governors that our efforts to diversify our revenue, a goal of mine, those are ongoing, and I anticipate more good news to come in the near future regarding advancement in our workforce development arena and what we are doing with the Woolney Center. You can consider that a little tease for yourself right now. Finally, I'd like to update governors on our legislative priorities. Our primary state level legislative priority has been to secure additional funding for our core appropriations. This has been shared and endorsed by our St. Joseph Legislative Partnership. And the partnership's goals, we were established in October of 24. We presented them to our local state elected officials in November of 2024. January and early February, I traveled 2 times to Jefferson City to meet with several key state representatives and senators to discuss our request. I will be traveling again to Jeff City next week, hopefully, potentially with our own Governor Al Landis to meet with Governor Kehoe, as well as other key representatives and senators. And I would like to stress to governors that this additional core funding is critical to Missouri Western State University. The cost of doing business for the university, which I consider turning on the lights and turning the heat on and opening up our doors. This cost for the university has increased from fiscal year 22 to 25 by nearly $6 million. Yet the governor's recommended increase to higher education is a 1.5% increase minus a 3% withhold, which is less than $400,000. any positive assistance you might be able to provide in this would be greatly recommended. Finally, I just want to end with a word about DEI as related to federal and state executive orders. I have been informing the governors about recent federal and state executive orders related to DEI in public institution. I've shared those with you. You should have received a copy of the message sent to our university community. Additionally, I have met with our faculty senate, our staff association, our alumni board, our Black Alumni Network, and our student government association, the Student Government Association, which provides leadership over our RSOs as part of the SGA Congress. And to outline those changes, it means that the Center for Diversity and Inclusion has been closed. The Center for Student Involvement will house student support programs within the Division of Student Affairs. Our searches are underway for a Director of Student Activities and Engagement who will lead the Center for Student Involvement, and for a Dean of Students who will provide leadership for the Division of Student Affairs. Those searches are nearing completion. Dr. Golter will continue in his role as Vice President for Student Affairs until his planned departure this summer. I would like to say, and will continue to say, our goal, our primary mission is to support success, that of our students, that of our staff, and that of our faculty. We will provide a welcoming, safe, supportive environment for each and every one of our students, our faculty, and our staff. As an open access public regional university, Missouri Western State University has been and will continue to always be open to all who wish to attend. And these truths will never change. And I am happy to take any questions the governors may.
Any questions for Dr. Kennedy? Thank you very much. We will now hear division reports from the vice presidents and other cabinet members. First up, academic affairs, Dr. Jay Johnson, provost and vice president of academic affairs. Your maiden voyage today, Dr. Johnson. We've heard such great things, so the bar's set very high.
Well, then I really need to say nothing.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that. Well, no, thank you for the introduction. And thank you for the introduction. Very happy to be here. Yes, this is my first one of these. So I just a little bit about myself, just so you know who's in front of you. I'm Jay Johnson. I am originally from Gallatin, Missouri. So I have been beaten heartily by Bryce Garnett on the golf course. So yeah, I'm aware of that. But I'm from Gallatin. I farmed for a number of years there in Gallatin, and then I decided it'd be nice to get some health insurance. So I got in higher education. That was 21 years ago, and it's been quite a journey for me. So I recently come to us from a school that shall not be named north of us. So I'm going to keep that. You can just guess which one it is.
Yeah.
I was there for 6.5 years, really great years, had some fantastic experiences there. But I've lived in St. Joe that entire time. So I know about this university. I grew up around the university. I'm aware of all the challenges and all the wonderful things about this university. And so I'm extremely happy to be here, and I'm really looking forward to all the opportunities to grow the university and work with my teams. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Kennedy for bringing me in here. She's been fantastic to work with so far. So that's been great. And also my colleagues on the cabinet have been fantastic, welcoming me here. And so it's been great just to be able to walk in and feel at home, because it's really not been that heavy of a lift because of them. So I really appreciate that. So thank you. And then also my team. I have the wonderful deans. I have really wonderful vice provosts, and then my admin staff. All that has just been fantastic. So you should know that the university is in good hands with good people, and I must say, excited people. The deans, the vice provosts, the faculty, to echo what Dr. Kennedy is saying, they're ready. They are ready to move. They're ready to get some stuff done. And so since I've been here, I've talked to a number of people, as you can imagine. The fire hose has been pretty steady stream of things, right? But I'm not drowning. I'm swimming as fast as I can. So I've picked up on a number of things that I think that we have some red alert that we need to focus on to start, but we also have a few things that I think I need to learn more about. So a couple of the items I'm working on right now just include some possible retention things. So what can we control in academic affairs that might feed into keeping students here? Because we have some issues there, and we need to address that. So I'm hopeful with some things we're working on there. I might be able to have some good reports in the future about that. I'm also looking at some processes we have at the university. There's some things I think that they're well-meaning. I really think that the people believe in the processes and wanting to get things done. But I think there's some things that might be some barriers to being nimble. And so we're working on those things. I'm working with my team, working with faculty to really try to figure out a process that we can own together and not make it about me, but make it about the community. So that's something else we're working on. Let's see here. So just a few things about this report that I submitted. I wanted to highlight that the faculty have been engaged in enrollment management, trying to get students here and trying to work through whatever challenges we might have to increase that enrollment. To repeat what Dr. Kennedy was saying about that, not only are they calling her, they're working on events. They're coming this Saturday to our Discover More at Missouri Western. So that's going to be a big event where we have a lot of faculty and a lot of administration involved in that, just so we can hopefully start getting those students to come back here. So, but I really wanted just to emphasize that that's why I chose some of those things in that report, because I really think it's important for you to see that we're really, really working hard at this. And that's going to be a continuing theme of my time, is making sure that we do everything we can to protect that enrollment. Okay. So, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have. I could tell you my handicap, it's not good. But I'll answer other questions. Have any questions?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Any other
All right.
questions for Dr. Johnson?
Okay. Thank you very much.
We'll work on getting you a black and gold tie.
I know.
Got one.
My guess is, yeah, you may have a few in the hopper already.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate having you here. Welcome. Next coming back up is Mr. Daniel Holt to talk about administration.
Thank you. I am going to try and touch on things that I have not yet spoken to you about at either the committee or in the earlier committee report. So just a few things just to apprise the governors of. Last year at this time, we were having conversations about how miserable my financial aid staff was with the FAFSA being delayed time and time again. And so please announce that as of February 14th, so a couple weeks old now, we had 2,072 FAFSAs received for the 25-26 academic year. And so the Department of Education released the FAFSA this year on December 1. So not quite where it is normal. Normally it's October 1st, but that sure beats the March date that occurred in 2024. And so we are pleased to get that moving. Financial aid offers letters to prospective students started going out here just recently in this brief semester. So they are working tirelessly to get things into our students' hands so that they can make their decisions. We will soon turn to our current students and making sure that they have their financial aid offers available to them. Most of the processing is done, but sending that information out to them will all begin here very shortly. Of those FAFSAs received, there was also 390 of them that were for students who had things backwards, where they sent us their application for financial aid before submitting their application for admission. So the financial aid office is working with the Office of Admission to get those into the system, get those in our part of our communication funnel, and allow for us to have conversations with students who have let us know that they're at least a little interested because they sent us that application. So we're excited that we have everything moving forward in February and not March and April. The second thing I want to just kind of touch on is on the technology side of things. The tech team has a full slate of activities that they are working on, and part of that is my doing. So I apologize to the folks that are in the room, but there are a lot of things that we are just trying to keep up, right? Just staying modernized. The world changes so quickly that it's hard for any institution really in higher education to keep up whether they need to, but we are doing our best. And so a couple of things just to highlight, because you've probably heard about the first one, our email discontinuation. We went through that process in we just announced it originally in October, and we started to pull that in late January, early February. And so we had more than 90,000 Missouri Western email addresses that were not needed to be in our system. And from a security standpoint, it's a lot easier to secure our systems without that information in it. So we started moving those. We have not deleted anything yet. That work is starting to progress. But that's a big part in terms of securing the university's information, our students' information, and so on. The second one is just modernizing ourselves. And so just some real world things. Windows 11 comes out, and I think that we have a deadline of October up, I believe, this year that you have to be switched off from Microsoft Windows 10 to 11, and some of our systems can't do that, right? And so we're trying to get things caught up to date and get, we have about 470 devices, I think, on campus that are unable to do that. So we've got some purchasing that we have to do, and then it's going to be a big task on that tech team to get everything updated. We also have programming things, we have built our processes off of a COBOL language and stuff like that, that again is outdated. And we hear about that from the federal government as well. And so migrating our systems, and at the same time as we're trying to tend to the needs of our faculty, staff, and students on a daily basis, is challenging. And so they have a big task ahead of them and are doing great work. So I wanted to highlight that for you all today. And then the last item on that note is that in November, we actually reorganized just a little bit and brought in our institutional research office into technology services. So it had traditionally been under the academic affairs umbrella. And so when we had a personnel change there, we took that opportunity to bring them into technology services because of the analytical needs that the campus has. And so that is on the faculty side, which his work with academic affairs continues. But even from our staff side, we were finding that our director, our functional users, didn't have the time to be able to do this work at the highest level that they need to in order for them to understand what's happening. So using financial aid as an example, what is happening with the dollars that we're spending in the awards that we're offering, because everything happens so rapidly that by the time they were able to understand that, it was all outdated, right? And so bringing him into the fold, Dr. Jason Morrill joined us in December, bringing him on that side of things has helped us kind of have a little bit of a mindset shift where we are making better data-driven or data-informed decisions, however you want to think about it. And just another real world example is that one of the first things that we asked him to do was he started to look at National Student Clearinghouse data to understand who are our competition. So we now have a much better idea of who our competition is, be able to use that as we move forward and how we recruit students, how we price ourselves, how we just behave. And so those are very, detailed ways that we can do better. But we weren't really necessarily doing that. So we're excited about it. I do think that applying some of those analytical outside of the research components, outside of the academic affairs, and taking some of those principles into the staff side will be beneficial to the university long term. So we're excited about that. That's all I want to touch on. Any questions?
Questions for Vice President Holt? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we will hear about university advancement and the Missouri Western State University Foundation, Mr. Mark Archambault.
Thank you, governors. Of course, you have my report. I'll just touch on a few things just to highlight a few items. As of December, cash gift receipts for the fiscal year exceed 2.9 million, putting us at about 80% of last year's strong end of fiscal year total, with still about half the fiscal year remaining. During the next half of the fiscal year, we are expecting another $400,000 in pledge payments against previous pledges. They're due this fiscal year. That would propel us to about 90% of last year's total. We enjoy, just for your reference, an extremely high pledge fulfillment rate. So we feel very optimistic we'll see that whole 400,000. By securing just another $375,000 in new gift receipts, the team could exceed last year's high mark. So that's our push to do that over the next few months and put another new tally on the board. I also want to keep you apprised of the range of different projects we're pursuing. Fundraising for the Holney Center continues, but is winding down. And with it comes our focus on a whole array of new areas. New solicitations that are in the works include fundraising for the franchise program's collateral fund that allows our students to get a franchise store, via namings, general funds for the library and Potter Hall digital content development labs, 3 additional asks for the Holney Center's general fund, scholarships for programs that are high demand and high priority for the university, a deferred gift of general funding for the School of Business, faculty support for engineering technology, and an opportunity to trigger a unique $210,000 one-to-one match to create program endowment for the franchise program. Just a couple items of donor engagement to share with you. Of course, that's the phase that happens before we are able to successfully solicit. The new Craig School of Business National Executive Advisory Committee held its second meeting, providing insights for the school's strategic planning. President Kennedy addressed the group. Each of the council's new members have already committed a new gift to the school this fiscal year. Prior to their appointment to the Craig School Advisory Group, those members had collectively previously committed about $4 million to the university in gifts and pledges. And I believe they have the capacity to do so again in the years ahead of us, given their demonstrated alignment with President Kennedy's leadership. Furthermore, the council members' potential is not only philanthropic, they're also contributing meaningfully to elevating students' educational experience. Several members of the group participated in a panel discussion in a class on global marketing, and one member, alumnus Sean Malone, reprised a talk on procurement negotiating strategies he'd recently been invited to deliver at the International Supply Chain Management Association, and gave that talk for free to students, faculty, staff, and members of the Holney Center Industry Partners Group. Support for Missouri Western's direction under President Kennedy continues to grow in our local community as well. Membership in the St. Joe Community-Based Ambassadors Organization has swelled, having more than doubled since fiscal year 23 to over 110 members. This has also resulted in increased scholarship revenues received from the group, which are donated in support of non-traditional/contemporary students. From the alumni relations area, the Alumni Relations Office is launching a new communications feature that will begin recognizing successful and university-engaged alumni-led businesses. We'll begin with businesses primarily here in our immediate area, but we'll fan out from there. This will be paired with a new award. Coincidentally, actually, we just converged on this idea, inaugurated by the Alumni Board, where they will also include that in their annual slate of awards, recognizing up to 3 alumni-led businesses. And then to conclude, just 2 last items. At the foundation board of directors approved 3 new members who have begun their terms. IT professional Luann Adams from the class of '83, former politician Martin T. Rucker, and attorney Sarah Steislinger. Foundation board chair vice chair Nick Robb, immediate past president Pat Maudlin, joined me and the director of the foundation, Michelle Chambers, at the AGB Leadership Forum. That's the Association of Governing Boards forum that was held in DC to learn about current best practices being observed by nationwide higher education, foundation, and university governing boards. A lot of valuable learning. Finally, just a general item. Also, just within the last few weeks, the discussion was held amongst the Holney Center Advisory Group. These consist of the key contributors to the project. And the goal was to surface very specific wants and delivery formats for workforce training. Accordingly, building on what exactly they referenced us, we'll be rolling out in a few weeks, I think at most, a new intermediate CNC or computer numerical controlled machining class that will involve computer-aided design along with it. Details are actually being finalized with partners as we speak. Representatives are out talking to the companies that we think are most excited about consuming this. That's my highlights, and I'm happy to answer any other questions from my report.
Thank you, Mark. Now we will hear on admissions and enrollment management, Dr. Jeffrey Foote.
Good afternoon, members of Board of Governors, President Kennedy, colleagues. I want to share some of my excitement of all the efforts that are going around to help with enrollment management. The team that is working to strategically figure out how we can be better as a university is it's quite encouraging to the work that we're doing in the admissions and the recruitment office. However, I want to address an issue up front. Our application numbers are currently lagging. In Buchanan County, we're behind by about 25 applications from this time last year. That may be due in part to some of the biographic realities of our numbers within St. Joseph and Buchanan County at large. However, we're down in Kansas City, Missouri by about 100 from this time last year. This is a significant concern, and we're taking immediate and decisive action to address it. While we're analyzing the factors contributing to this shortfall across all recruitment efforts, our primary focus right now is on maximizing our potential within KCMO. We've identified a significant pool of prospective students with a select group of high engagement high schools in this region. This is where we believe we can make the most immediate and impactful difference. Our plan is centered on a personalized approach. We're starting targeted email and social media campaigns apart from our regular campaigns that are running to capture the attention of these potential students, highlighting the unique opportunities that our university offers. We're following up with personalized text messages and phone calls to build relationships and address their individual questions and concerns. Finally, we're focusing on school visits and college fairs. So we generate interest through those other vectors. You send an email, you send a text, and then you go out and you meet those students in those schools that we've identified as being ones where there is capacity to send students to school and a number of students that makes sense to go to those schools. We're not going to where there's 18 students, where there are a lot of students with a lot of demand, and connecting with all of them face to face. Our commitment is to providing a personalized and engaging experience for each student. We understand that choosing university is a significant decision, and we're dedicated to providing support and guidance they need to make an informed choice. This is what the market is demanding. We need to be able to personalize and understand where they are in their process, understand that there's significant challenges that they face currently to deciding to go to university in the first place, and support them through that process. We're prioritizing communication and building authentic connections with these prospective students. We recognize that overcoming an application deficit in a short time frame is a substantial challenge. However, we have a focused plan and a dedicated team and a strong belief that we represent the best state university value for students in the Kansas City region. We're confident that our net price is one that should go up against any of our competitors, and the value of the quality of the academics that you've heard about and the ideas and the programs that we have happening on campus are ones that should be attractive to students. We're confident that by concentrating our efforts on these high engagement schools, we can significantly boost our application numbers and get back on track. We're committed to monitoring our progress closely and making adjustments as needed. We appreciate your support for the larger strategic plans outlined today that will support efforts to increase awareness of our unit, which is responsible for the sales of this university, so we can meet our goals. And I really believe that these efforts together should pave the way to success. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Data on like lead time, lag time, to turn something like this around. I mean, it's not one semester, I would know.
The turn semester.
Like you start in
Clarify.
business, if we start a huge marketing campaign
Right.
today, we know that sales are not going to respond in one.
Right.
Depending on product that you're selling. It could be 6 months, a year, 2 years. Is there any data
Right.
like that in this kind of line of work so that if you know you enhance your effort, don't expect payback next semester, expect it in 3 semesters? Is there any data like that that can kind of give you some hope for the future?
Well, there's hope for the future. Yes, it's a great question. There's hope for the future, certainly with, and in terms of the lead time with what Unionl's doing on a broader basis, there is going to be some lag. And what we're trying to do in our effort is put people in place to really look at the data that we currently have and see which students have been on our website or have submitted a FAFSA, and really trying to get granular with where they are in their journey. And there is a significant number of students that are in that process. So what we're trying to do is nail down those pieces and sort of short circuit the traditional marketing approach that does have a tail time that takes some time to realize. So that's going to be happening with Unionl. What we are is the boots on the ground piece, where we're trying to identify, a specific student, Caitlin Welsh at Van Horn High School that I talked to yesterday, that's worried about, what her dad's VA benefits will do for her. We're trying to get to that level and have her move from where she's an inquiry to get her to apply. So we're trying to get down to a real granular level and see if they've got a FAFSA submitted, if they've been around our website, and try to dig in it. So it's a little bit different than the longer burn that you're asking about with this delay.
That individualized approach is very popular, as I'm sure you're aware. I just read this big, huge report on the state of marketing in 2024. It was fascinating. And the individualization is a big part of it. But again, it takes a lot of workforce to pull that off, right? I mean, they're individualizing everything. Traditional marketing is like, right, there's a huge population. We're just going to throw our stuff in.
Exactly.
They're gonna. I applaud you for thinking that way, because I think it is the way of the day and the future. But I think it would be nice to know if we could somehow project. Because I mean, it's just an investment, right? You're just making an investment in marketing and hope it has a ROI, just like every investment.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So we're taking what we have, which is the data, to try to identify those students and make our, as has been said before, our universe as small as possible, and try to target those students that
So
have
it's
a high
hard to
proclivity.
predict. That's the bottom line. Yes.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Fry?
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. I would note on the agenda that Dr. Goltra had a family situation that he needed to attend to, and so that's why that was passed over. The report is in the board book. Next, coming from the on deck circle, Athletic Director Andy Carter.
Thank you, governors. Good to see everybody. Just a couple of things to highlight outside of the actual report that you read. We are in the well past the mid stage of our strategic planning process with our consulting team from Mammoth Consulting. And it's been a great process. We're uncovering a lot of things that we want to tweak as we move forward, looking at the next 5 years. And that's been very exciting. We hope to have that completed sometime around May. Matter of fact, I had a Zoom call this morning as we were tightening up some messaging and some language that we want to use in our plan. And there's an internal strategic plan, as well as one that's going to be with bells and whistles for the consumption from the external folks. The internal one will be presented to our cabinet, to our President Kennedy soon. And it's going to show a lot more of how the sausage is made that we won't have out for everybody to consume, because it's out of context. It's really hard to understand. However, I think this process has been fantastic, and I look forward to the completion of that. Much in the same way, we're also working with Mammoth Construction on consulting team on our facilities master plan as we look to the future, even, current needs, but also 3, 5, 7 years down the road. college athletics, as you know, has been changing at a very rapid pace lately, especially at the high levels, but that all has trickle down effect to us. And there's a lot of unknown that's happening, especially in the way of how conferences at the lower level of Division I are going to survive the revenue sharing era that we're moving into with college athletics, and how that has an effect on the top end of Division II. And so trying to position ourselves facility wise for the future is something that we're deep involved with, and we'll have a plan come out here later, probably around the same May timeframe. So excited about that. In the very early stages of trading agreement details with the Chiefs on our agreement for them to be here for training camp. That's very positive moving forward, but there's a lot of back and forth, because just to remind you that this is a new agreement. This isn't just adding on to the previous agreement. So we're working through the details of what that looks like. But that's an exciting process. So the save the date sheet that I handed out, these are just some really, I think, exciting events that are coming down the road for everybody to be aware of. Hopefully you could be part of. I would say that even Saturday this week is our senior day for men's and women's basketball, our last home basketball game of the year at 1:30 and 3:30. We'll be honoring both of those groups of seniors. The guys will happen between games, even before warmups start. So if you think you're going to get there to see it, you need to get there a little bit early. But these other save the dates, the MIAA basketball tournament, which right now it appears that women will for sure be in, where we think the men will make that. And I want to pay special attention to the bottom, because this is a change in how we've delivered some of these events. We get very event focused toward the first of the school year, as we're also transitioning out of Chiefs into the things that we do. And so we're going to try this, and we're going to have 2 different golf tournaments sandwiched with the auction and Meet the Griffs, which is going to be hosted at the casino. They've partnered with us to help defer a lot of the cost, not all of it, but a lot of it. And we think that this weekend, both of these golf tournaments have 2 separate clienteles. One's more of a, bring your buddy and have a good time, on the course. The other one's a little at the country club, a little higher level. But we feel like that these are both going to fill up very, very quickly. And so we're excited about that new endeavor. And then the last thing that I would say is that I know some of you have another meeting after this meeting, but at 4:00, our women's lacrosse team is playing Westminster out of Utah over at Spratt Stadium. Weather, at least it looks good. Haven't been out much today. So I think it'd be a fun event to drop by and just see what's going on. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Andy, I just want to mention, and maybe I'll let you do it. I was at the basketball game for acknowledging the student athlete academic achievements. And my understanding is the overall GPA is
3.319. And I would tell you that event is awesome. It's a bit overwhelming. And that's awesome as well. And I, as I told the president, as we were standing and fist bumping and shaking every hand that came on the court, they're not only, good athletes and good at their academics. We have some of the finest young people out there. Even when a mistake is made, they own it and they want to get better. And so I couldn't be more proud to have those students represent us.
Where are the women in the regional picture right?
4 as of yesterday. And so obviously exciting win last night. So we should continue to hold that spot. I think with the women, a win on Saturday, the tournament, it always means something, but I don't think we'll need to win in the tournament to maintain a top 8. So that's very exciting in year 1 of a new coach.
Any other questions for our athletic director? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now hear from our student governor, Mr. Garrett Jackson.
Good afternoon. Highlight of my report is the Sleep in Heavenly Peace bed build we had at the very beginning of the semester. It's a very exciting event. I'm very glad I got to attend. Just to give a slight recap there, purpose of this organization, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, is to build beds for kids all around the St. Joseph area, including Atchison and other smaller towns that don't have beds. So I believe the number I have is 300 kids that don't have beds in the area. And so we got the opportunity to build 50 beds. There was 155 students that came out to help, and I just got to be part of one of them. So that was an awesome event to see for many different factors. Just again, the community service that we got to participate in, the number of students from all different areas of campus, and just again, the fact that we utilize the Hoolney Center for its big bay, as well as to see all the students there that would have probably never seen the center, got to see it for the first time. That was cool as well. Just to see a raise of hand who's not been here before, and most of the hands went up. So how many of you would have not seen this had you not participated in this? So I look forward to participating with that in the future. The next thing I have is to say that the process for looking for the next student governor will be beginning shortly. So I'm happy to say if any students you know or any students, please message me at my email, studentgovernor@missouriwestern.edu, just to inquire for details or information on the position. And we'll be putting out more information on that campus-wide shortly. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Garrett. We have certainly, at least in my time on the board, have had fantastic student governors, and you have some very big shoes for the next person to fill. With that, you've done an outstanding job and represented the student population admirably on this board. And your input has been very appropriate and helpful with the board. We appreciate you. And next will be my report, which I'm actually going to read a little more than I typically would on that. It's touching on, it got brought up in our committee meeting beforehand of some of our policies we have and the need for looking at them and revising those. We had a committee on this in the past, and it just became a bit overwhelming with that. And so we're trying to come up with a new, more focused approach on doing that. And I'll kind of start with the micro and then maybe get into a little more of the macro. The two examples of draft policies that you are looking at, they're in the board book, and they're drafts. Nothing is being enacted. There's not seeking any type of a vote or anything today, but it's kind of explanatory of how the process works. The first policy for review is the alcohol on university grounds and at university sponsored events. This is a revision to the existing alcohol policy, but is a more comprehensive policy in that it provides a process for internal and external entities to submit requests to serve alcoholic beverages at certain events, and also address the use of services of alcoholic beverages at university sponsored events, including those that are held off of campus. The second policy proposal is the minors on campus policy. The board has previously had discussions about the need to formalize many of the university's existing processes and requirements related to activities and events geared towards minors. The two draft policies and a summary of each, as I said, are in your board book. The board does not need to take any action on the draft policies at this time. However, I do ask that you begin the process of reviewing these policies. The drafts will be shared with the campus community for comment, and once any comments are reviewed, then the final proposed version of both policies will be submitted back to our board for approval. With that, our general counsel, Kelly Douglas, charged her with this approach of spearheading this, and she is taking this on as a theme has been mentioned, above and beyond other duties that are already filling the plate. That's kind of the micro approach. More the macro, take a step backwards to go forward. The board is periodically discuss various changes that may be desired for its bylaws and policies, and has recognized that periodic review of its bylaws and policies are a best practice. While there have been some limited adjustments to the bylaws and policies, it appears that it's been quite some time, and that's being generous, since a comprehensive review of those governing documents has occurred. Since bylaws formalize the rules of governance and guide our board structure and decision-making, they can complicate the board's work if they're outdated, overly burdensome, or incomplete. Regular review of the bylaws and other governing documents is in keeping with best practice. Additionally, as a public institution of higher learning, Missouri Western must ensure compliance with federal and state laws and the requirements of its accrediting bodies. It was touched on earlier of the accreditation process that is coming up, and this is just one of many things that are looked at, and whatever we can do to be proactive and put ourselves in the best light possible, I believe that we should look at and handle appropriately. With the upcoming University Higher Learning Commission, the HLC, accreditation review happening in 2026, this is a good time for the board to assess its own governing documents and determine if any revisions or adjustments to those are desired. One of the HLC's guiding values include governance for the well-being of the institution. This means that the governing board of an institution places the institution's well-being above the interests of its own members and the interests of any other entity. Because HLC accredits the educational institution itself and not the state system, HLC holds the governing board of an institution accountable for key aspects of the institution's operation. The governing board's independent authority is necessary for such accountability. It requires the governing board to hold itself independent of undue influence from individuals, be they donors, elected officials, supporters of athletics, other stakeholders, anyone with any personal, financial, or political interest. HLC requires that the institution's governing board be able to demonstrate sufficient autonomy, training, and the adherence to its legal and fiduciary duties. So in anticipation of the HLC review and in keeping with best practice, as I stated, I'm charging the General Counsel with conducting a comprehensive review of the board bylaws and policies. I have asked her to identify any recommended revisions and to work with an ad hoc committee, which will be appointed at a later date on those matters. If revisions are warranted, the General Counsel and the ad hoc committee, in consultation with the president, will work to bring revisions before the full board for any amendments as needed. Going a little bit even further with that of what the HLC looks at and some of the criteria that is reviewed by them in our accreditation process. They review the standards of quality of which an institution merits accreditation or reaffirmation of accreditation. They look at the institution should be able to demonstrate that its governing board meets the legal and fiduciary responsibilities owed to the institution while adhering to appropriately documented processes and procedures designed to preserve its independence from undue influence and to appropriately manage conflicts of interest. The institution should also be able to demonstrate that its governing board appropriately delegates day-to-day management of the institution to its administration and that faculty are empowered to oversee academic matters. I think that, to me, is a key that we always need to focus on. Our role is to set policy and then to empower leadership to run the university with that. So in summary, the bylaws should be reviewed regularly in order to take into account major changes in the external environment or internal institutional structure, compliance with federal or state regulations, and consistency with judicial decisions, discrepancies between current board operations and the bylaws, and any outmoded or overly cumbersome requirements. Revisions may not be necessary, but a comprehensive review of these governing documents is needed. So we're starting that process and going to be with an aggressive hope of having some drafts for you to review yet this fiscal year. Somewhat tied into that is also want to remind everyone, all the board members or the governors, if you haven't already, to respond with your survey to the Missouri Ethics Commission that is required annually. I'm not sure exactly when the due date is. It's coming up. So if you have any questions with that, certainly could reach out to Betsy, help you through that. But make sure we meet that requirement. Our next board meeting will be on Thursday, April 24th, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. Same spot in the Union, room 220. That concludes my report. Is there any old business that any of the governors would like to have addressed? Is there any new business to be addressed that was not on the agenda? Any comments, other questions from any of the governors? There being none, a vote will now be held to close the meeting pursuant to Missouri Revised Statutes 610.021, sections 1, 2, 3, and 13. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor to close the meeting, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes. We will go into closed meeting and take a 10-minute break.